14, 13, 12.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the channel At the Closet Conservative, where coming out of the closet as a Black conservative is more difficult than coming out as gay. No shade to my gay brothers and sisters, but that is just the truth. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hi, John, and hi, Malva. I see you. Yes, John, all is well. Thank you guys so much for joining me on my inaugural live stream. As you can see, I'm joined here by Matt Taylor, who's an author, a father, and a native South Carolinian, and he grew up in North Carolina for a while too, but I think this is going to be really awesome. I really appreciate you guys for coming in.
Absolutely.
I think we got a few more people. I want to give it a little bit of time to get more people to come in. So before we really get started on everything, and then of course, as the YouTubers say, and if you follow YouTube enough, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And come with me on this journey as I try to grow and reach as many people as possible about concerns, you know, in America, in the Black community, concerns for Black women. Hi, Miss Rosie. Thank you for coming on to my live. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. And make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We're about a minute and 30 in. I really want to give, I know I had some people who said that they were going to attend. I want to give them a few minutes before we really just get into everything. Hi, Jordan. And thanks for just subscribing. I appreciate it. You guys are really awesome. I appreciate anybody who subscribes to my channel. And I just want you to know I definitely appreciate it. I won't take you for granted. I try to really bring you great content. And I think I'm starting off pretty well today with Matt Taylor. Like I said, he's a native South Carolinian. He's an author. He's a father. He wrote a really awesome book called The Assault on Freedom in America. And as you can see, I started reading it. It was so much good stuff that I got through most of it, and I start highlighting. If you guys are like me and you're reading a good book, you get to highlighting and taking notes. And so having said that, I want to give Matt an opportunity to introduce himself and tell you a little bit about him.
I am a native South Carolinian, born and raised pretty much in Greenville, South Carolina, and did my high school years here in North Carolina in Wilkesboro. Went back and went to Furman University, philosophy major, and then worked actually in the real estate industry for years as a real estate appraiser for about 30 years. And then just watching my business get wrapped up like a mummy with red tape of regulation and productivity going down, profits going down because of government regulation. I just had enough of the loss of freedom and decided to write something that I think was important. So,
well, that's awesome because Matt, when did you write this book?
Well, I started probably in 2015. I actually, for those of you that may be religious, no offense to those that are not, but if you are, I felt called to write this book, and I blew the calling off for about a year. You know, I just thought, no. But and then I finally then I spent 2 years or so in research. That started in earnest around 2015. Before President Trump had ever even announced that he was going to run, I started writing this because I could see what was happening, what I believed was happening to the country. And if you knew me longer, this goes back to my mom and I had a conversation back in the 20s about, and I just had we were talking about careers and which
in the 20s.
In my 20s.
Oh,
the eight oldest. Yeah.
I was going to say, man, I know you old, but you ain't that old.
No.
Okay. All right.
In my 20s.
Okay, gotcha.
Thanks for correcting me. So,
in his 20s, guys, not in the 1920s.
But
okay.
I've been observing the decline of American freedom since my 20s, and we were just discussing, and I came up and I told her, so I said, you know, Mom, I said, I think I have a song to sing, but I don't think people are ready to hear what I have to say right. Time's just not right. And so this has been with me for a lifetime. This isn't something I've come by new. Appraisals and working in the real estate industry was just where I think I had been placed to bloom for a while.
Yes.
But it was never meant to be my calling. It's not my calling. This is what I consider to be my calling. So this has always been with me. But I
Okay.
felt like around 2015, the time was right. So I got started in it,
Okay.
and got serious about writing this book.
Awesome. Now, Jay is asking, can a book be purchased on Amazon? Now, just to
Yes.
remind you guys, yes, but to remind you guys, we had a promotion with this. So the first 4 people that signed on to this live are going to get a free copy. Signed copies of the book. So we will announce who those first 4 are before the stream ends. So Jay, if your name is part of that, I'm not sure yet, but if your name is part of that, you will be getting a free book, but if it's free signed copy, but if not, it can be purchased on Amazon.
Right.
Okay.
You could get the book anywhere at any major bookstore, and it's available worldwide. But I just recommend Amazon. They're the quickest. They'll get it to you in a couple of days, especially if you've got Prime. Okay. So I just mentioned that everybody gets to go to Amazon. It's the easiest.
And then can they get it on your website?
You can.
Can you shout out your website? And I'll make sure I include it in the description once we upload this video. But
my website is mactaylor.org. And
MACTAY
TAYLOR.org. And you can email me there. It's mac@mactaylor.org. And you can request a signed copy if you like. I have to charge you for the shipping for that. But if you wanted to order from me, just do it. Send me an email and let me know what you want to say in the book. And I'll write it in there and get it right out to you. So.
Okay. So thanks for asking that, Jay. We appreciate you asking that because I had forgot about the promotion. So, just bear with me. I'm a novice to this, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm really grateful to you guys for joining us today. So we're going to get into the book and some of the things about what Jay wrote about. And what Matt wrote about. Jay, you on my mind. So, but what I think is really important, what resonated with me with this book is that as freedom-loving people, which is innate to every human being, all of us love freedom, that we should be concerned about what's going on in this country right now. I don't care what political persuasion you are. I don't care what your sexual identity is. I don't care what your color is. If you're seeing like me, what's going on in the country, I think you have to have some level of concern. And I think a lot of people are giving up freedoms little by little. See, that's the thing about tyrants and people in power. They'll take away your freedom little by little. You won't even notice it until it's too late. And the fact that he started writing this book in 2015 says a lot, that this is really, God put it on his heart, just like God put it on my heart to even start this channel. So if you're a freedom-loving America, I think this is a freedom-loving American. I think this book is very important. So we will definitely start to get into some of the points in the book that I think are important for people to know. And it's so many great nuggets in here. There's no way in the world we'll get to everything today, but some of the important things that I think it's important for you guys to know. And definitely when you get an opportunity, if you're not one of the first 4, definitely take advantage and purchase the book on Amazon. Okay. So one of the first things I noticed in the book as I was reading, you made a case, or you told a story about thinking versus feeling. And then and if you're a Black American like I am, or if you're Black folk like our people are very emotional. We're very emotional. We're carried by emotions. And I resemble that statement because I'm very emotional. So he made a point about thinking versus feeling. And I would love for you to expound on that, Matt. I think you told a story.
Yeah, I did. My daughter, who is now, I guess I can mention her age, right? 25, just not, I won't put a name to it.
May give a little bit of an idea of what your age is, but okay.
It may. But it was during her elementary school years, and woke up one morning. I went into her room to wake her up and get her ready for school. And she said, "Dad," she said, I don't feel like going to school today." And I said, "Really?" I said, "Are you, do you have a fever?" She said, No, I don't have a fever. I said, "Your stomach hurting or something like that?" No, my stomach doesn't hurt. I said, "Are you sick in some other way?" She said, No. She said, and I said, "Well, what do you think we should do about it?" And she said, "Well, I think I ought to go to school." So that morning, that gave me this idea about how thinking and emotional reactions to the same problem or situation in life can lead us into 2 very, very, very different directions. So we had a great, and I think a very healthy discussion. I bet she remembers it to this day, about the differences in feeling and thinking. And for years I would watch. I bet everyone can relate to this. You watch the news, and someone gets killed. Let's say there's a murder, and the journalist comes up to the family and sticks the microphone in their face and goes, "Well, what do you think about this? How do you feel? I mean, what do you think?" So if you notice and you watch the journalist, we have been led to be an emotional nation, and emotions are great. Emotions are important, but emotions are there. But so is logic and reason and calm thinking, and they're two beautiful, wonderful human faculties, and we need both of them. But we have to put them in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely.
So when Anna thought about when she thought about what she should
don't contact his daughter.
What she decided that there was really nothing wrong. She just didn't feel like going. But had I, as a parent, just assumed that she didn't feel good, we would have just stayed home and had a play day. So we took it a little deeper, and it made for a really good teaching moment. And it taught me something too. And it became the first chapter of the book.
Yeah, and I think that's critical. And one of the reasons I asked that first is because I know a lot of us now, when you look at things that are going on, we get torn emotionally. Of course, when you see what we saw, like with George Floyd, I even had an emotional response at first and I even know better most of the times because with the media, you got to wait and get the whole story. But seeing that gave me an emotional response and I immediately got angry.
I did too.
So and I think that was an important point to make, is that you got to understand that people in power will use your emotions against you. So we have to become a thinking people.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that to me can be the first step towards losing your freedom, because people are going to play you for your emotions.
Especially, I think Americans have been easy prey for this, because Americans are a trusting people.
Yes.
We want, especially our government, we want to trust our government. And I used to say, years ago, I would say that they're always talking about the Social Security Trust Fund or this trust fund or that trust fund.
Yep.
The biggest trust fund I think that has been exploited is the American heart.
Yeah.
The trust fund of the American people.
It's a great point.
And so now we're kind of in deep doo, as some would say,
deep
in the country.
Just call it what it is. Okay, so now having said that, you made a point about universal moral law. Let me read this right quick so that you guys can understand what I'm saying. Okay. And I think most of us, what I like about this book, it can appeal to anybody. It's not a religious book. It's based on universal principle. And so my phone is ringing, so just ignore it, just like I'm going to do it. But natural law is the inherent and universal principles found in nature. Natural law is the basis for man's general interpretation of what is right and what is wrong. And I think most of us can kind of agree with that. You got to think about it. Babies are born. You get a 2-year-old, like my 2-year-old grandson, as soon as he do something wrong, he know he did something wrong. And he'll try to, correct it. But as soon as he does something wrong, he gets a guilty look on his face.
Even at 2 years old?
Even at 2. So these universal principle laws we're born with. That's not something given us to by government. So I'd love for you to explain a little bit more what you mean about universal moral law.
Well, the current left says that we're not born with it, and that it's culturally determined. Cultures actually determine what's right and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's not true. I don't believe that for a second. And but that's part of what's going on in the country. But natural law is everyone's basic. It's basically your internal compass to tell you which way is up, which way is down,
yes,
what is right and what is wrong. And we all have it. And I was having a conversation with someone one day, and he said, no, right and wrong is culture is determined. And he said, I said, even murder. He said, well, there's some cultures that would be okay. We brought up the issue of Germany with the Nazis, and I said, what about that? He said, well, to them, they thought it was okay. I said, well, the people they were killing, do you think they thought it was okay? And so then at that point, then he got my point, but it took till then for him to get my point. And prior to America, the world was basically organized and ruled by kings, queens, dictators, and tyrants. And if you weren't a king, or queen, or a dictator, or tyrant, you pretty much were just told what to do most of your life.
Yeah.
And so it really all got started in earnest in 1517 when Martin Luther went and nailed the 95 Theses on the Wittenberg Castle church door, and that began the movement of the Protestant Reformation.
Now, what I want you guys to do is listen to what he's saying in these references. I hope you're writing them down so you can go and do your own research. That's the thing that's important about this. I don't want to tell anybody what to believe. We just want to give you this information because that's key. You got to go look up your own information, do your own research, and then make up your own decision. This channel is not to help you, to persuade you. We're really here just to educate you, give you information, and then you go look it up yourself.
Help you think.
Yes.
All of us.
And hey, Lynn, I see you.
So what was happening pre-America back in Europe, essentially, was that people just didn't have a right to, if you said something that the king or queen disagreed with, maybe off with your head, or maybe you'd be burned at the stake.
Mm-hmm.
If you were lucky, you'd just get jailed for so many years and they wouldn't kill you. But this just built up to a crescendo, to a point where, and the church was involved too. At a point, the church became corrupt and basically was in.
Sound a lot like today, but okay.
a little bit like today, but the church is different than. We'll get into that.
Right.
So, oddly enough, it was in 1603 when King James was ruling that it was the Puritans and Protestants that asked him for a right of conscience. They asked him for more separation of church and state, believe it or not. This is a Christian idea, the idea of separation of church and state.
Yes.
So the modern left would make you think, no, it's the Christians are going to come in. You can't vote for Christians, get them in office because they're going to make you go to church. And, but that's just not the case. And so, because it's the Christian's duty to respect each and everyone's individual right to their own life, to their own decisions, whether you're gay, straight, atheist. As a Christian, it's my obligation, it's my Christian duty to respect someone that chooses a gay lifestyle that might not be Christian, or someone that's an atheist, even. So this great battle, this discussion began at those early stages, and then the Pilgrims, and we come over here, and the colonies are formed, and even during the call from 1620 on to 1776, even though the Puritans and the Pilgrims were here, the colonists also had different religions and sects, and they fought each other. That's how we ended up with the Salem Witch Trials. Some of the Massachusetts, I think I have this correct. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but the Massachusetts Bay Colony, they even hung some of the Quakers because of religious differences. All of the colonies had so it took until 1776 till we finally understood that individual sovereignty, that each person has a right to live their own life. That's God-given, natural, universal law that we all have. And that brings back to your question about the natural law. So how this came about was people Americans and our founders understanding that each person has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that no man has a right to tell another man what to do,
or how to live, or
exactly right. And that's why and then this concept of individual sovereignty came about, and this all is based on natural law. And it's critical that we understand the role of natural law, because that's where all of our freedoms come from. And that
was given to us not by man, not by government, but by our Creator. However your Creator manifests, and that's the other thing. We're not here to dictate. He's Christian, So, but what I love about this book is that an atheist can read it, a Christian can read it, a Muslim, a Jew. It doesn't matter, gay, straight, because it's mainly the foundation of this book is freedom. So I do want to make a point, though, that I think a lot of people don't understand. And we always hear about our founders were white, slave Christian men. But here's the deal: what they did was unique to world history. What Mag is talking about, in all of world history before the United States was founded, you had despots, kings, tyrants, always somebody else telling you what to do. So what's unique about this country is that we were in charge of the government, not the government in charge of us. There's something in the Constitution called consent of the governed. So all these people in DC, all these politicians in your local government, in your state government, and in Washington, D.C. work for us. They came up with the concept of for the people, by the people. Right. Not the governed. So what I think what Mac is addressing and what I'm seeing, that's right, we the people, John. What I'm seeing is that it's becoming more, y'all do what we say. Instead of we get to tell them what we say. And then another point I want to make before we go to the next is that the United States is not a democracy. The founding fathers actually, see, I took a class on the Constitution. See, once you become knowledgeable, it changes your perspective a lot. And they may have been slaveholders and all of that is true. But the principle that they built this country on, the foundation of this country, is a universal law that and those of us who are Christians know that we're not perfect. And that was the other thing that they understood, that we're not perfect. So that was the wonderful thing, basing it on universal God law instead of on man's law. None of us are perfect, and they weren't perfect, and they understood that, but they gave us a gift in making us, giving us our freedoms. And I think and that's really why I wanted to have this interview, because freedoms are important. So go ahead, man.
Daniel Webster called the founding of America. He said, this is a 6,000-year miracle. And he said, miracles don't cluster. And so he said to be careful, American people, that you don't lose this, because what happened once in 6,000 years is not likely to happen again. So what's that one thing that happened? It was the recognition that each man, woman is created in the image of God.
Yes.
And therefore no man is the king of the other man. Mm-hmm. And then they came up with this idea again of individual sovereignty. And they built a government around the idea of individual sovereignty. And it's critical to understand this, because this is the battle that we have going on. We're going to be getting into this a little deeper in a minute. But this is the battle that's going on in the country right now. Mm-hmm. But because of this idea of individual sovereignty, it's like a zone of protection around each human being. And a zone of protection that you have a right of self-defense. You have a right to speak without being shut down. And the left is very cunning. For example, on speech, they haven't used any laws in Washington to shut down speech, but they're doing it through the media, through intimidation, and through basically the social media.
Okay, so what I want to do, I'm going to stop you right there, because I know you guys here. And hi, Phyllis, I see you. And hi, Molly, thanks for joining us. He's using the term the left, and this is what I want you guys to understand. And then I'll let Matt explain it a little bit more. Freedom-loving people in this country, one of the things I'm finding out is whether you're conservative, whether you're liberal, whether you're gay, straight, transgender, black, white, Asian. I see a lot of people across the spectrum that believe in freedom and the right of conscience. And I'm going to have Matt explain that. But when we talk about left, the left are principles of Marxism, right, socialism, communism. And I want Mac to explain that a little bit more, because a lot of people have died in the 20th century in the name of Marxism and socialism and communism. It's one of the worst ideologies that's been implemented in this planet. And if you look at it, Stalin, Hitler, Mao, these people believed in Marxism, and millions of people died because of it. So I'll let you explain a little bit more about what you mean by the left. This is not a right versus, it's not conservative versus liberal, anything. You really got a group of people that are far left, that are Marxists, that are really trying to take over this country. Right. So go ahead.
When I say left, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I do need to clarify that. The left has two groups, two central groups: liberals and leftists. Leftists are Marxists. So I have a lot of friends that are liberals. They are not Marxists.
That's right.
But they're not thinking this, in my view, they're not thinking this thing through, and they're voting for Marxists, thinking they're voting for federal liberals. Mm-hmm. I'm actually called a conservative in modern day vernacular, but if you go back in time, I'm a classical
liberal. Yeah,
we're both liberals.
Yes,
because I believe in live and let live.
Right.
You gay or straight or whatever you like, do it. What you cannot do in America is take the reins of government and force me to believe as you believe. I can't take government and force you to believe as I believe. So we just have to leave everyone alone and respect each of our individual sovereignty. But it's a very important point. In fact, I think someone should start a hashtag, hashtag left walk away, and walk away from the left, because the left is doing like Black Lives Matter. They're taking what is a legitimate protest and a grievance and people hurting throughout this country, and they're piggyback and they're infiltrating and they're hiding inside of this legitimate movement. And but they're Marxists. Well, the leftists do the same thing with liberal movements. So the liberals, I would challenge the liberals listening to us here to think about what I'm saying. If you come to this conclusion, then hashtag left walk away, or come up with a good.
There
hashtag.
is like a walk away movement. You know that, right?
Yes, but this is for the left.
Walking away from the Democrat
But I'm
Party.
talking about liberals, like maybe you're a staunch atheist and an anti-Christian or whatever you are. You have a right to be, but you. I'm talking about Marxists, the leftists that are Marxists. And so when I say leftists, in my mind, and for the audience here, what I'm speaking of the people that are Marxists, which is basically the elite and leadership of the Democratic Party, unfortunately.
The establishment,
Yeah.
and for you guys who don't know, hi P Honeycutt and Kim, thanks for joining us. For you guys don't know, go and check out Black Lives Matter website. You'll see that they claim to be trained by cultural Marxists. It's 3 Black lesbians. I have no, if you're against this country, I don't care what color you are. I'm a Black female too. I don't care that they're lesbians. What I care about is that they're Marxists.
That's right.
And then they're hijacking the Black plight in this country to promote their agenda. That's why it's very important you educate yourself.
Using the Black people.
Exactly. A lot of Black people who aren't educated about Marxism are jumping on this bandwagon and allowing us by our emotions to be manipulated by Marxists. There's a book called The Communist Manifesto. He actually mentions it in his book. That's written by Karl Marx, who started Marxism. I highly recommend that you read it, so that you can understand the mentality and ideology that you're dealing with and how destructive it is. Right. And if you just take a look at BLM and what it's doing, I don't see anything they're doing that's beneficial to Black people. It's making us more angry, more emotional. I don't see any benefits to, rioting out of control and pulling down statues. What has it done to help the Black community? Nothing that I can see. But I do want to read this right quick, because this is one of the things that Marxists use with emotional people. This is what they call useful idiots. I just want to tell you, because they have an agenda. This is not by happenstance.
They don't play.
They don't. They play for keeps. So let me read this. This is actually from the book. And I'm telling you, I've been highlighting everything. So it says, the useful idiot, as spoken of by Lenin. Lenin was a socialist from Soviet Union, communist, socialist. They all kind of intertwine. Marxism, socialism. That's why when people progressive, all of that, advocate for this stuff, they don't really understand what it is that they're advocating for. So the useful idiot, as spoken of by Lenin, is generally naive, uninformed, and guided more by emotion rather than passion, bridled by calm reason, right? Therefore, easily used and manipulated to the benefit of the mischievous, power-hungry politician and the detriment of our individual sovereign freedom. An emotionalized mob can be a powerful force for any would-be tyrant-minded, unprincipled politician to yield. Does that sound familiar?
I wrote those words, everybody. I wrote that in 2017, and just looking ahead to over the horizon at what I thought I saw coming. And so now just look at Portland and look at some of our cities being burned down. So
run by leftist Democrats, mind you.
Right. Right.
So, but I appreciate that. And I just can't say it enough. I highly recommend reading this, because it'll really definitely give you a good foundation and an understanding The Assault on Freedom in America by Matt Taylor. We froze up. Hopefully you guys can still hear us. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about, are we froze on there too, Vic?
I think it's coming
okay,
back.
there we
go.
go.
We're back now.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you too, because all of this goes back to freedom.
Right.
Why is it so important to defend freedom? Why do you think it's very important to defend freedom?
Human beings and individually were meant to be free, born free. Where I believe there's a creator to the universe, and I believe that all human beings are created in the image of God, and no man has a right to enslave any other man, and that's been done throughout history. It's being done now, actually, and it's just as wrong. It's an evil. I think it's a curse on the earth and a curse on man for ever having done it. But in a book that I read, it says, "Where there is no vision, my people perish." I mean, men need and women need a vision in life. You need to be free. And
I know that book.
but back again with the natural law. Through natural law, you can reason out the idea that no man has a right to control another man.
Right.
It's like the earth is filled with people. So which group of people do we pick to rule everyone else? The only way is every man's his own king or queen, and that's the only way to have a peaceful government. Anything else always leads to war and civil unrest, and that's where we are now. And that's what's dangerous. But it's important. I want to just reiterate something about the natural law. Natural law, just like the principles of science and of mathematics or physics or gravity. I'm holding some glasses here, and if I let go,
gravity is universal.
So gravity, but you can't see the principle of gravity,
right?
But we can see the effects of the principle of gravity. So these things, the natural law is discoverable through man's reasoning and thoughtful processes, and that's the basis of the founding of our nation. And when Kim was talking earlier about a 2-year-old could make value judgments of what is right and what is wrong, this is the left.
And he bad as and you know it.
so the left hates. This is the founding ideology of America, of the West, and it is critical that you understand this idea of natural law, because that's what our freedoms are built on. But this is why the left is coming in and saying, no, there is no natural law. You're just believing something that your parents taught you, and they're believing what the grandparents taught them, and on and on and on. Yeah. But in other words, man is just here. There is no God, no creator to the universe, and we can make up what we want. And that's how they've come up with political correctness and social justice. The left wants control of the moral code, of moral behavior. They want to decide what is moral and what is not moral.
Well, the problem with that, too, though, is that when you go away from that foundational universal law and then let man start deciding, then the ball keeps getting moved and
there's no common universal understanding.
So that's what the problem.
Think about this. Each child that's born on the earth and since human history has an innate understanding of the basics of right. Think about what a miracle just that alone is. And if you remove that, that's how we can arrive at what is just and what is unjust and what is right and what is wrong. If you remove that from the picture, we will be living in absolute chaos and anarchy,
and which is where we're headed now.
That is where we're headed.
Now,
and the left is trying to undermine these founding principles.
Yes, I agree.
And they do tricky things like they go back and they say, well, but the founders were a bunch of slave owners, and it's like, you know what?
The principle, it doesn't matter,
right?
For those of us who know the Bible too, we know that God used imperfect people to bring about his agenda, to push his principles. We know David was a murderer and an adulterer. Noah, was a coward and a murderer. And a drunkard. Moses was a murderer, right? So, all of that. But just on a side note, right quick, you guys, I just got to tell you, I'm drinking this water with lemon and cucumber. And I know this is totally off subject, but it is so refreshing. So if you're ever just drinking water and you put a little lemon and cucumber in it, it's very refreshing. So, okay, back. But I do got some great news, okay? I don't know if you guys knew, but we were offering Matt's book free. We got the first 4 people that signed in are getting the book free. So I have those names. So we got Malva, my girl. Thank you for signing in. John Moore.
Thanks, John.
Rosie Rivera,
Thanks,
and
Rosie.
Jordan Patway. You guys were the first 4 to sign in, so you'll be getting a free copy of Mac's book. So please, Malva, you know how to hit me up. Make sure I get your address. Anybody else, you can either message us on the Facebook page at The Closet Conservative on Facebook. We have an email address. I have an email address. The email address is at theclosetconservative@gmail.com. Vic, can you put that in the comments so that they can see it? At theclosetconservative.com @gmail.com. That's the email address, or message us. I don't want you to put it in the chat, because then everybody will know your address. So again, it's Malva, my girl, my classmate. I love her. John Moore, Rosie Rivera. Rosie, girl, yes. I think we met at we were at the restaurant. You know, we're trying to get NC open back up. And Jordan Patway, Patteway, Jordan, whoever you are, you're going to get a free copy of Matt's book. So thank you guys so much for signing in. It is awesome to have you guys here. So we're going to continue the discussion, but right quick, we are going to have a question and answer. We'll probably take the last 10 or 15 minutes if you guys want to ask questions of Mac. And also, just to let you know who Mac is, he's got some wonderful endorsements from very famous people that you may know. So Mac, can you give us the people? I know who they are. A lot of them are on that back banner right there, but tell us people who you've talked to about your book and who've endorsed it, you know, on a national level and here, you know, statewide in North Carolina.
The book's endorsed by South Carolina former Congressman Trey Gowdy, and South Carolina State Senator David Thomas. And on the back of the book, you can go on Amazon and read this. This is Senator David Thomas's endorsement on the back cover here. And so,
I know he took some pictures too as well. I've seen him around taking pictures. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the conservative bloggers, Diamond and Silk, who are very close to the president. Mac's got a couple of pictures with them. Mark Robinson is actually running for he's a Black Republican and who have endorsed him. So, you know, you can trust that this is in Spindale. Yes, I mean, fellas, that's where we met, Rosie and Spindale. Yeah. I love my friends. They help. You know, that's that old Southern stuff. You know that. Right. That's my grandma. Both my grandmothers from the South.
That's not long at all.
Not long at all. Grew up in the South. So there is one more thing I wanted to talk about before we kind of get into the, you know, the question part of our broadcast. He wrote a real interesting chapter. I did want to talk about a little bit because what we consider money really isn't money. So can you talk about that a little bit, and then you can show him what you bought. And this is just to go to show you how the powers that be are quietly in the background working while we're going about our everyday business thinking everything is okay. And if you don't pay attention to what's going on, you can get really, you know, you can get comfortable in your comfort. And then next thing you know, we're all going to jail, or, you know, all our rights are being taken away and our freedoms are taken away. So go ahead, talk about
that's been going on for well over 100 years. I mean, you could read some of the writings in 1800s, discussions in Congress and other people. And the assault on freedom has been going on for a very, very long. It started not long after the founding. You know, everybody, it was this idea of individual sovereignty as a threat to people that want to control you and control me and control Kim. And so we got the income taxes. Most people don't realize that.
Let me ask you too about the Federal Reserve. Is the Federal Reserve actually a federal entity, or is it private?
Well, this is not an area of my expertise, but I believe that it's private.
I do too.
And
it's private.
And it's individuals that we now owe money to.
Federal Reserve is a lie to make you think it's part of the federal government. It is privately owned.
That's right. That's right. So the Federal Reserve was started back in the 1920s. The marriage laws. I know this is a question about money, and I'm going there, but marriage laws were started because the Democrat Party once again didn't want Black and white people marrying each other, and that was the purpose for having a marriage license. So we have a marriage license, and then they decide they're gonna gut our money and take us off the gold standard. It took a little time, but this process started in 1913. And I brought some show and tell items here for us. But so America was taken off the gold standard. Gold was confiscated in, I believe it was 1933 under FDR. And then the silver circulation ended in 1964. So when I was a child, this is what a dollar bill looked like. And I know you can't see it there, but here it says on the top, it says silver certificate. And if you read the bottom, down here on the bottom, it says in silver, payable to the bearer on demand. So that meant you could go into the bank, give the bank silver dollar, and the paper dollar,
right? And then they would give you
and the bank would actually give you a piece of silver.
Wow!
Listen to, you can't hear it, but this is actual silver. So how much do you think this is worth today? $1? No, this is worth $27. I checked this morning. So what that means is this is almost worthless. So they've taken your money, detached it from the gold standard, which means you no longer have a store of value in a material that has high demand. There's no high demand for a piece of paper. So they very cunningly removed our ability to store money. And then if you had back in 1933 when they confiscated gold, this is a 1 ounce piece of gold, and back in that day it was called a St. Gaudens, and it was almost 1 ounce, and it was for $20. I think it might have been $22, but basically for a $20 bill, and I have a Trump 20 here, but for
you got me with that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
For a $20 bill, you could take the $20 bill into the bank, and they would give you basically a 1 ounce piece of gold. So today, this is $20. This is $2,000.
Wow.
So you see what's happened to your money. This is how we've all been robbed, and it's very deceptive. And it took me a while to study and understand this and learn what's going on. And so this is why we're always chasing the carrot and never quite catch it. And so this is what they've done. And
that's why they start printing money. It doesn't mean anything. They can print money. It's not backed by the gold standard or the silver standard.
As they print money.
And that's why we have so much debt now.
This is less and less and less valuable. Right. Well, we're bankrupt. And it just and this is in the book, I give an example of how many millions you would be if you had, you'd have to get the book to read it, but how much money you would have today if you had some gold. Your grandmother gave you some gold back in 1933 and you kept it versus what's happened to your dollars,
John Moore says, let the USA default on the 27 plus trillion debt, green money, and create a USA gold-backed blue money. Federal Reserve problem solved. Okay, well, I wish it was that easy.
But again, money that holds its value. This is called currency. The dollars today are called currency. They're
right. It's not money.
This is money.
Right.
This is money, and this
there's a
gold.
difference.
This gold is money because they're not going to lose value. This is going to keep up with inflation.
Yes,
for you.
It is.
The dollars are not going to keep up with inflation. So the powers that be are never going to allow the average person to have money. They took your money away from you, and we didn't even notice it.
Wow.
So because this is what they do. This is part of their effort to control. And it crosses party lines. This is not just
it's establishment. Exactly.
There are rhino Republicans that play the same game.
It's them again. It's the haves or those the oligarchies, the tyrants, the despots, whatever you want to call them. Those that are in power, the Pelosi's, all of them up there in power, who are against the people. And that
reminds me of something too. That the book does not have 2 words I left out of the book on purpose. The words are Democrat and Republican. And we might have frozen there, but
there we go.
The 2 words that I left out of the book intentionally are Democrat and Republican.
That's
because
awesome.
Freedom is not a party issue. Freedom is a human issue, and every human being has a right to freedom, and it's not doesn't belong to one party or another. So
well, we're about 15 minutes before the end of the live. Did anybody in the chat have any questions that you wanted to ask Mac? Because I tell you, we really only touched on 2 chapters, the first chapter and chapter 6. But I thought it was important to talk about some of the basic foundational principles. To get the rest of the meat of it, I highly recommend getting the book.
If there's a cultural Marxism question comes up, would be good.
Right. Does anybody, Rosie, I'm seeing you said you hope we never get to see communism here. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I think Mac wrote the book and why we're doing this live stream.
It's already here. Was that Rosie talking?
Yes.
Rosie, unfortunately, it's already here. And so we're kind of late coming to the game. The left, again, not the liberals, but the left has been at this game for well over 100 years.
Yes, we catching up.
There was a fellow named Antonio Gramsci, and he was a communist. He was the founder of Italian communism, and he said, this is a quote, he said that socialism is precisely the religion that we will use, now I'm going to paraphrase, to basically infiltrate and take over the West. And he said, we will do it by infiltration of their schools, their universities, their churches, and other institutions. So this infiltration is called cultural Marxism. And it's just getting Marxists into every aspect of our culture and replacing our founding values with the subjective, political correct, and social justice values of Marxism.
Yeah.
So this has been happening, and we need to push back on that.
Oh, John recommends that we continue the discussion, a series on freedom. Yeah, we were actually thinking about a part 2, right? Because it's so much information. And yeah, John, thank you for that suggestion. It's so much information. We only touched on some basic principles, which I think is important because they're foundational for you to move forward in your understanding. And I think what part of the problem today is that there's so much ignorance. Now, see, to me, you got 2 types of people, basically. You got stupid people, you got ignorant people. I can't do stupid people because it's just what it is. They just decide to remain that. Ignorance just means you don't know. And if you're open to receiving information, and then you can get educated. So, and that's one of the goals, I'm sure, of Mac's book. One of the goals of this channel is for us to be informational and help people to understand, because I think that's critical now. I think a lot of people don't really understand what's going on.
This book will help you understand what's going on. And I wrote it as it's dedicated to my daughter, and I wrote it as a field guide to freedom. If something were to happen to me and I was gone, I was so concerned about what I see happening in the country that I wanted her to have what I thought was basically a field guide to freedom and the roots of freedom and where it came from. And so if I'm dedicating this to my daughter, it really means that I'm dedicating it to your sons and daughters too, and families of America. But
yes, it's a great read. I highly recommend it. Did we have any questions in here? Because I got a few more nuggets we can go over if you guys want us to talk a little bit more about the book. I think we got about a little over 10 minutes. Thanks, Rosie, for joining us. And don't forget to message me your address. So I believe we're friends on Facebook. You can send it in Facebook, or or at the email address is at theclosetconservative@gmail.com. Matt, give your website again.
It's mactaylor.org.
And then, do you have a Facebook page?
I do have a Facebook page, just MAC Taylor, Taylor. There's another page, Mac Taylor, MAC Taylor, and author.
Okay. So since I'm new to this process, I'm not sure how to put it in the, you know how they say link in the description. So once I go and upload this video and add it to the page and maybe do a little editing and stuff, I will add Mac's information and then my information there too. But I really appreciate you guys. One of the things that I really, since nobody really, and feel free to put questions because I can see you there. But one of the things that really stood out for me was that you wrote about, wait a minute, let me find it right here, right quick in my notes. I got so many tabs. And then I've highlighted so much stuff. I thought cultural Marxism was very important.
It is.
But there was a quote from John Leland. He was a Baptist minister, okay?
Right.
And it's on page 43 in the book, and it's right in the middle of his quote. It says, "Truth disdains the aid of law for its defense. It will stand upon its own merit." So can you kind of expound on that? Because I believe in universal truth. Like it doesn't have to be defended, but can you expound a little bit on that and what the point you were trying to get across?
Again, it goes back to the founders' self-evident truths, and these self-evident truths are how we defended against King George III was the King of England at the time of our American Revolution, and kings of England and other countries in Europe had this idea of divine right to rule, and but through study, basically study of the scriptures, it can be shown through natural law that there is no divine right to rule, and that there is a singular truth, and that a singular truth, just like in science, like in the math class, there's an exact answer. You're not almost correct or sort of correct. You're either right or you're wrong.
Wrong, exactly.
Right. So the same thing in moral law, which is behavior of man. And we know that we shouldn't kill one another. We know that we shouldn't lie to one another.
We shouldn't steal. We should, right.
This is why there's penalties for lying in court.
Exactly.
Because the truth matters. But the left is out now saying your truth, my truth, his truth, her truth. I wrote something.
Oh, that aggravates me so much.
Me too.
Like the truth is somehow moves with the individual. Yeah. It doesn't. It's universal. Right. Truth is applicable to everybody. Right. It's the same one truth.
And if there's your truth, my truth, his truth, her truth, then there's no truth at all. Exactly. That's exactly right. So these points are provable, and these are founding principles of the country. And if we move off of this and we follow the leftist Marxist path, we're going to be in chaos, and our country's simply not going to survive. I'm just going to tell it like it is. We're not going to survive. The only way is we get back to our founding principles.
Okay, John is asking what is some of the chapter titles. So I do want to read them. Some of the chapters. The first chapter 1 is feeling versus thinking, the right of conscience, moral law of nature, know the principles of freedom, the hidden branch of government, money, socialism, capitalism, and Thanksgiving, the minimum wage, no right of provision, America is special, and faith is the logical choice. So these are some great chapters in the book. Malva, I appreciate you coming. If you miss some points, that's okay, because this will be uploaded for view later, and then you're going to get the book, baby. So you'll be able to, dig into it and highlight it like I've been doing as well. So, John, I hope that answered some of the, your questions about some of the titles in the book. I know we focused a lot on the first three chapters, but I just thought they were critical to get that foundational understanding of what's at stake in this country. Because the minute you start giving up your freedoms and allowing the government to encroach on your freedoms, I noticed this, that people are willing to give up their freedoms for security, for a little bit, a false sense of security at that. The whole mask wearing thing and everything, and the making you feel secure by wearing a mask, but not understanding the freedom that you're giving up, that mandates from governors are not law, are not constitutional. I think we all understand COVID is real. And initially when it first came out, we did have to do what we needed to do in order to make sure, until we found out what was going on. But even then, them telling us to stay home was optional. It wasn't law. We just did it because we agreed. We consented.
Well, the left is positioning things rather smartly on their behalf. This is why we need to think through that our behavior is harming other individuals, just like with global warming, So, but our behavior is hurting the earth. So, this is a cunning way they've come up with to take our rights down, and so that they can once again tell us what to do. But because of this thing of individual sovereignty, now we should be respectful if there's older people and don't get close to people, don't cough and stuff.
Absolutely.
So if you show respect, but the idea of being told to wear the mask, that you have to wear the mask, is absolutely unconstitutional.
Don't get me started, because I'm just contrarian by nature. It's just, look, I'm like a 2-year-old. Right. Because you tell me to do it, then it's my reason not to do it. But I understand the importance of freedom. So we do have about 5 minutes left. Are there any questions? Comments are welcome. I love the comments that I'm seeing. John, I love, some of the comments you made about we have to be educated. And I would love right quick to Matt for you to make that point. Because one of the things that I saw in the book that we asked is, how can I help? What is it that I need to do to help, promote freedom? And a lot of us think, okay, we got to go out and do something and riot. Well, that's what they're doing now, riot, not riot, protest. But it's not as, difficult as you may think it is. So Matt, before we leave, let them know what they can do to make a difference to help this cause for freedom.
Well, get a copy of the book and read it. And
good one.
not just because I do want to sell books, but it's really not. This is about saving a country. It's not really about selling books but understanding the principles of freedom, what they are, and how we arrived. That's why we spent so much time on natural law and the foundation and then you'll learn how to defend that. For example, when the left comes up and says, well, we need diversity, the left is strictly focusing on race when they do this. This is pure racism.
And not diversity of thought.
Oh, that's a great point.
It's just diversity of skin color, sexual orientation. Right. But not diversity of thought. So that's such a false flag.
Which is a false flag. Way of just virtue signaling on the left's part. So because that's, America wasn't built on a diversity program. It was built on merit and a lot of hard work by all of us that are here. Yeah. And so learn, and then learn about what right of conscience is, that you have a right. If somebody says, well, there's 70 different sexes and you have to believe there, are genders but you believe that there are two. Well, you have a right to believe that each of us has a right to our own beliefs. And so I think just understanding the founding, why America was founded in the start, because King George III was doing to the colonists what the left is now doing to the country now. Right. We've come full circle. Right. So this is a great time to get back into the founding of this country on the founding. Yeah. And
and I think because we're getting a little short on time, but what I wanted to emphasize is what he's saying is, which I thought was very important point in the book, is just educate yourself. Don't believe everything you see on TV. I would highly recommend don't follow the mainstream media. I don't watch mainstream media anymore. I get my education from books. I follow some, YouTubers who I know I can trust to tell me the truth. I very seldom watch any TV anymore. And before we end, guys, I do want to say that one of the things we're very excited about working on in this channel and some of the information we want to present and that I want to present and is, about, Black history in America, the Black history you're not going to learn, that the Republican Party was actually started by Frederick Douglass, who was a black man.
And that the largest slaveholder in South Carolina was a black man.
Okay. And then Kamala Harris's father and family owned slaves. So we will talk about, and what I wanted to say too, any suggestions or any things you want to know about as far as, Black history, Black culture, American culture, American history, our founding, the Constitution, these things, freedom, these are the things that are really important that we hold near and dear, on this channel. So any suggestions that you have, things you want to know about, P. Honeycutt, thank you. We were given free will and choice from the Creator, right? And the enemy of mankind is the destroyer of humanity. We must know the enemy. That's exactly right. Know who the enemy is. It's not always in the form of a human being either. Right.
The unifying agent of America is the principles of freedom. Yeah. And if we're unified on this principle, we can have diverse opinions and diverse lifestyles in peace.
Absolutely. Well, family, we really appreciate you joining us today. We thank you so much for joining us for our inaugural, I can't say that, and usually I can, but our inaugural live stream. And please stick with us and we'll be bringing some more great content. We appreciate you, Mac. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kim,
we appreciate your wisdom and your research, and love, peace, and blessings to you all. We love you. Thank you so much. All righty.